Welcome to Unsuccessful. We're your hosts, Jen.
And I'm Brandy, and this is the podcast where we admit out loud
that we suck.
So if life has ever felt like a dumpster fire,
you're in the right place.
Well, let's get into it.
This week on Unsuccessful, we're doing something a little different and a lot entertaining. In honor of Mother's Day, we invited our husbands, Nick and Brent, to join us on the mic and share what it's really like to live with two emotionally intense, highly ambitious, constantly evolving women in business. From navigating burnout, grief, and hormonal chaos to what it means to be a supportive partner, well, we go through all the things. They don't hold back. You might even hear a few surprises and definitely a lot of laughs. This one's for anyone who's ever wondered what it's like to be on the other side of the dumpster fire. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, take those screenshots, tell us what you're loving about the podcast so that we know that we're making a difference. Let's dive into the raw, ridiculous, and surprisingly heartfelt world of our other halves.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Like in unison?
Like actually, yeah, do it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
On this episode of Unsuccessful, we suck and you do too. Isn't that what you guys say?
Yeah.
So I'm Brent. I'm Brandy's husband. Brandy's part of the Unsuccessful podcasts. I am a firefighter medic for the city. And when I'm not doing that, I'm at home. I'm taking care of all the things that are home and house related. While Brandy works on whatever it is she's working on in that particular moment. I'm Nick. I'm Jenny's other half. I work for City Chrysler in their retail sales capacity. And when I'm at home, which is sometimes, some weekends, we fill in the gaps. Brent, lots to do. 2 kids, crazy life. I think I have a few roles at home. I'm, the handyman, the manager when I'm allowed to be in charge. And I don't know, I just plug away at the chores and keep everything moving and keep.
You're the chief dishwasher, honey.
Well, definitely chief dishwasher, yeah. I wash a lot of dishes. I get grief from the kids about the proper way to do dishes. They just want to shove everything in the dishwasher. Unofficial role, I don't know if we really have heavily official roles. We're all over the map. Sometimes it's not a traditional pink house and a blue house. We just kind of fill in where the gaps are. Whatever needs to be done gets handled when it needs to get handled.
When she said she was starting a podcast called Unsuccessful, what went through your head?
The first thought through my head was it's just another thing that she's doing, and it's just to add it out to the list. It didn't shock me. It's like she's done podcasts before, and this is just another one. It was the thing she wasn't going to do this year, and I said, "Oh, holy hell, here we go." What went through my head was it's going to be rather entertaining.
Have you listened to any episodes?
Cumulatively about 10 minutes. I've actually listened to, I think, every episode so far, unless something's come out in the last week or two. I can't remember the last time I watched the last one, but I was listening to it. Yeah. I'm curious as to what goes on in her head sometimes, and maybe I find out snippets of information this way and what's going on. And yeah, I learned a few things.
What did you learn? What have you learned?
I learned a few things about, especially when we were first having kids or whatever. She's working and on mat leave or starting business and doing all that kind of stuff, and just what was going on in her head at the time. And it was definitely eye-opening. I can't recall specifically how much we actually talked about it, but it just some of the things that were going on in her mind. Maybe I didn't know everything about it. So.
That would be interesting to hear it from a different perspective and an unfiltered one, That's what I've been curious about. I think we might have talked about it. Like, what did he think? And then she was like, I don't think he's told me yet.
Well, I've listened to podcasts, but we've never had conversations in what do I think about the podcast or what I think about any things that she said in the podcast.
We did talk about.
There's a couple of things we did talk about, but nothing.
We talked about that episode where we talked about.
There's no specific in that.
There was.
I can't even remember what it was. No.
It was the when Jen asked me about the first time, like right after I quit the bank, and then was deciding to. Obviously, I started my business, and then slow season hit, and I was panicking.
That's right. Yeah.
And she wondered if you would know about how much I was panicking. And I said, you wouldn't. And I think you said that you don't remember.
Well, what I said is I remember about the time that was all going on, and I remember. I don't think she let on how say slow it was or how bad it was. I mean, this was after the fact. She had quit her job at the bank. She started this business, and going into the slow season, I didn't know she was panicking. I didn't know there was anything about that. Me, it was just more of like, this is just this roller coaster of things that we've probably been going through since the beginning, and then it's just another dip,
It's another day.
so I just keep plugging away, and we work through it, and that's kind of how I handled that. She was good at hiding it. I don't know if she's trying to hide it or but I think in those situations, the best thing I can do is just keep consistent and keep working and just keep plugging away and being stable. I guess that's the point.
Yeah. Considering what you do for a job too. What were you at that? Were you doing that at that time?
At that time, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the intensity levels and the stress levels too can feel like if you're a fireman, like you have to pull people from buildings. That's like intense, and then it's like, oh, I'm having a really bad month in sales. Well,
It's perspective.
right? But it feels the same. I think it can feel the adrenaline and the reaction can feel very similar.
The stuff and the situations that I've been in my job. You're right. It's some of the home stuff. It's kind of like, this isn't really that big of a deal.
Yes.
It's kind of like, what's the worst that can happen, right? So,
But then that allows you to bring in that stability element too, I think, right?
well, there's stability element, and the fact that I do work nights, and sleep was a bit of an issue, but I'm around a lot during most of the days, so I think that's quite helpful for home life and the kids and all that stuff. I mean, obviously some days get a little sleep deprived and
Sassy, especially in the beginning.
Especially in the beginning, because obviously early in the career you spend more time in the ambulance, and you're typically awake most nights, and you don't get sleep, you don't get rest. And I've always been a terrible napper at home anyway. So even when I had the opportunity to nap, I couldn't do it. So sleep deprivation was a hard thing to push through, but I was still there. I was still able to function for the most part, and got my sleep when I could, and just try to keep things moving along at home, I guess.
Yeah, that was the hardest part in the beginning, was
the hardest part.
Because I was growing my business and the kids were little, and he was on the bus, and like there were days where he didn't sleep for like probably 2 days.
Yeah, it was tough. I remember one thing in your podcast that resonated is Brandy said something about she was almost resentful that the fact that I got to go to work and I could work out while I was at work, and I could do some of these self-care things, And yeah, there's truth, an element to that, but it was also like I'm working out and I'm pushing through, surviving on 4 hours of sleep in the last couple of days, kind of thing. So it was I was younger. I was obviously it was easier to push through that. As I get older, obviously sleep's a bit more important, and of course my mindset's changed, and I understand now that it's actually more important, and how much better it makes everything when I'm not wicked tired.
Nick?
It's interesting. They're two very different lifestyles. Sleep's never been a huge issue. Sometimes it is, sometimes not, but not to that degree. And I think the crisis management portion of it would be very different from the day-to-day. It's always very interesting. I know when Jenny decided to start Teacup, that was always very interesting. We were both fairly comfortable and did well in our positions where we were, and it was a big change. It was a big swing. You find what your emergencies are and what the scary things are, and it's become a pretty smooth life for us. It's I think, for the most part, aside from when we have new projects and stuff to do. When they come up, when Jen's mind starts to turn, and it's like she wants to try something different and needs a new project.
So when I said I was starting a podcast with Brandy called UnSUCKcessful, what went through your head?
There's a lot of okay, anything. Here we go.
You can take credit for the stuff.
You got it. Yeah, you got to take credit.
You put the suck in success.
I do sometimes. Really fucking bad. It is what it is. But I can relate on levels from still a bit entrepreneurial to a degree, like when it comes to.
Absolutely.
So I have a first-hand knowledge of the suck on some days and how it looks, and think you're doing everything right. But just bottom drops out of it. And it is what it is. You just get up and you keep moving, and never too high, never too low. And some days there's higher and lower, but you can right the ship, keep it flat if you can, and like you said, try to stay steady regardless of what's going on. Right? That's for the kids and the family more than anything. Our kids are lucky; they get to see a lot of different spectrums of things, and I would imagine yours do too, right? You get to see the first responder from one end, and then the entrepreneur. Like you're two very opposite ends of the spectrum. There.
Our kids have no clue what I do.
Ours have a great idea. It's like going to shop and they're in it.
Yeah, because they're in it. But for me, online business, they have like zero clue.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see it.
They don't understand. No. In fact, Ty, one time, this was a few years ago, so he was quite a bit younger. We were at Smitty's for breakfast, and he said, "Hey, Mom, I think you should get a job like here." Because it's like tangible, right? You can see somebody working. It's like, I don't really get what you do, but you should work here.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. See, I like it because we can, Tag and Arnold will come to the store with me times on my day off. We have Saturdays or Mondays sometimes when I'm not working. They'll come in and they help. They'll, tag a license plate on the cars and talk to customers when they come in, and people that they know, obviously, they don't just throw them in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people, he'll come and chat. And I think to me, it's important. They'll hear me get on a phone call while we're driving sometimes, and it's important for them to realize, hey, we're driving out to the Whispering Birch and pick up a phone call and figure out how to sell a vehicle or work with a customer and do it. And now, just make a little bit of money on our way out, and we don't have to be sitting in an office all the time to do that. And it's kind of breaking the mold.
That's true. That's true. Like I say they don't really know, but I think that they probably know more than they do. But they also don't realize how much more they know just because they're in it, right?
It's like traditional.
Yeah, and Olivia, I think she's always kind of had a bit more of like an entrepreneurial mindset, although she struggles with the motivation of it. But she, like, I think because of what she sees with me, then she's like, it just becomes more natural. Like her success on Etsy, for example, where she's just like, I'm just going to put this on and I'm just going to sell it. Like, no big deal, right? So anyway, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I think my kids know what I do for sure. They have an idea of what I do, and I don't bring home all the stories about the bad stuff and all the crap that we deal with. Because I don't even talk to Brandy about most of that stuff because they don't need to know any of that, or Brandy doesn't need to know any of that stuff. And I try to bring home more funny situations, more the the stuff that that they can relate to or they can understand, and they know what I do, but they also don't. If I'm 5 hours late coming home from work, they're always kind of like, where's Dad? What's he doing?
Well, you wonder what that would both put in their brain, right?
Yeah.
Brain building over there, my dad's over there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Or when you see some of those big grass fires that are threatening the city, like we had in the past decade or whatever it is, I can understand how kids might get. If they know that I'm out there, they're like, oh no, I'm scared because I don't know where Dad is or what he's doing or when he's going to go, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
But that would be. But I think it has a lot to do with your emotional, like the calmness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Too, that it's like, yeah, I'm there. I'm actually safe because I'm there. I know what's going on. I'm helping control this. I'm helping safe. I don't know what a kid would do. We should interview the kids. Do you know what your mom does? Arlo would be like, my mom's a YouTuber. No. And a podcast. She always asks me, oh, Mom, how many downloads do you have on your podcast? Did you launch another podcast today? Oh, how's it going? She always asks me about
really?
podcasts. So she's very into that.
And Ty would be like, how's your tanning business going? How's the tanning going? What's that tanning stuff? The sun. Ty actually knows more than anybody, I think. It's funny.
I wonder if because they get drug around with us a little bit more, the little ones, right?
Yeah. Okay, so what's it like living with a perimenopausal entrepreneur? Use one word, then back it up.
Fuck.
Is that the word?
Fire away, bud.
I don't know one word that could honestly, I don't even know if I would notice if Randy hadn't been talking about it for the last little while, and all the stuff that's been going on, and with her, what she's feeling and what she's experiencing. Yeah, I know. I probably wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Nick?
If you're paying attention, you can pick up little pieces. Jenny's very vocal, obviously. So she will fill us in on what's going on, whether we want to hear it or not. Sometimes, so we get kind of a front row seat to what's happening and how it works, and so it's interesting to see. I guess the changes that the female body goes through, and ups and downs, and whether it's hormonally or it could be business sometimes. You never know, right? But it's a little bit hard to track between the two sometimes because you don't know if one's got to do with the other. But it's interesting and on your toes. You have to be kind of prepared to a degree for whatever's going to happen. So, usually if it's business, I get a phone call because you'll have a question or something, and it's like, something's going on with this customer. Anyway, bounce stuff back and forth off each other because of our experience throughout the years. But yeah, it's interesting. I've read it with interest.
Interesting in the sense that I think I've learned a lot too, because Brandy sees videos and she sees the articles and
Send it to you on
about
Instagram.
send them to me. Instagram, text, Facebook, all the channels.
Yeah, the Instagrams and the books.
Yeah, so definitely lots of information to peruse at my convenience, and yeah, I've learned a few things. There's actually a documentary out there that apparently is pretty good, and I haven't got it yet, but I thought it apparently might find it interesting. So,
What's it called?
Big M or something like that. It's just recently came out. I think in the past year it came out, and I can't remember, PBS or something like that. So, yeah. But the reviews are pretty good. Lots of good information.
So I wonder if you've noticed a difference in the last few years of anxiousness, stress. Have you noticed more a shift in us over the last few years versus maybe 10 years ago, as far as willingness or patience or that kind of thing?
I wouldn't say I've noticed much of a difference. Brandy's been talking about it a lot more in the past year or two, about how she feels and about how she feels this anxiety, and about how some of the symptoms that she's experiencing, and to the point where she wanted to try going on a medication to see if that would kind of level her out, if that would work, kind of thing. So I've kind of been through it in that sense. That but I think there's always been a bit of an element of stress and anxiety kind of with her since we met or first got married, or when she started working after university, that sort of thing. So I think there's always been a little bit there, that she's managed it very well, I would say. And then maybe just in the past few years, she's just been more vocal about it, talking about it a bit. So.
Yeah, that would be Jenny's always, you could sit back and watch Jenny, and she's always done her best to be in tune with what's going on. She's tried to learn, she's tried to educate herself. She's done many different things from that standpoint. Whether it went to, from a shamanic journey to releasing habits, to releasing old fears, to just releasing a lot of things that would hold her kind of in the state that she was in. And now, definitely more verbal with it, and probably more comfortable with just saying, fucking minute, the kids drive me nuts. I can't deal with this right now. Okay. Go and move the kids, away we go. Off you go. But asking, I think, maybe for a bit of that help when it comes in, so maybe more comfortable with it. You'd have to go that route, but definitely more verbal. Probably the last 18 months or so.
Yeah, and over the past, pretty much our whole marriage kind of thing too. There's been she's been doing coaching. She's been doing all these things to better herself and better her skills in business and stuff. And I guess you do a lot of work on yourself with these coaching programs that she was taking. So and then the books she's been reading. There's been a lot of self-growth work that I've been watching her go through these past years. So there's definitely been out there. There's other things, not even just business related, but even family related that she's been kind of dealing with and trying to process her mind around it too. So there's been lots of conversations and lots of stuff about all that. So yeah, and then in the past couple of years about the anxiety, and then it's just another chapter in the self growth journey. I think that we've been taking on. I shouldn't say we've been taking on because I don't know. I'm not very verbal with my self growth over the past 10 years, I would say, but I don't know here.
Yeah.
Nick's like, yeah, I can take it on because I
Yeah, I mean, it's what it is, right?
snack with it every time.
Well, I don't know, osmosis, does that work with
Huh?
personal growth? I don't think osmosis works with part of it. I guess my shit just absorbed.
She gets better, so I get better.
But it's smack. That's the way to put it. You get, there's new books and new videos and new, like, whatever's coming out as it goes through. And it's to my benefit. It's not a detriment by any stretch of imagination. So it's, been the beneficiary of her intense focus on just being better. So it's kind of, I think, being in the same household, same thing. You're just around it, and you just automatically start to pick up some of the little stuff, whether you're intentionally doing it or not.
Mm-hmm.
You just pick it up, and it's good for the kids, it's good for the family, it's good for the dog that's shuffling around over
somewhere.
What's something she does in her business that totally blows your mind or makes zero sense to you?
I think your entire online business empire thing you got going on there is very confusing for me. I mean, I get how business works. You got inventory, you sell it, you make money. There you go. Perfect. But when you start talking about all your ROAS and your ad spend and all your this beast that chugs along that's online commerce and stuff, and she's on the computer and tech support 10 times a day, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. People are like, what does your wife do? I'm like, well, this is what she kind of does, but there's all kinds of stuff I don't understand, so I don't really know how to describe it best. But it's online commerce. It's ClickFunnels. That's a good word. I like that.
I don't use ClickFunnels anymore.
I did.
Whatever.
Apparently, we don't use ClickFunnels anymore. But
that's an old thing. It's
so, anyways, there's a whole lot of stuff out there in the social media empire that I'm not. I have no idea. I don't have a clue. I'm not a social media person. I'll get on there and I'll scroll, but I don't post. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't know. I don't understand it. So, yeah, good for you for learning all that. It's good.
There you go.
I'd have to ask which one generally, but I think that in itself might be an answer. It's just the ability to be
Business.
Yeah, go after it. Is it teacup? Is it a podcast? Is it real estate? Is what do you want to get into? It's I think that in itself kind of answers the question. The ability to be multifaceted when it comes up, right? You just pivot, and her absolute thirst for knowledge is astounding. I like to learn. I like to learn what I'm doing, how I'm doing. I like to see how it functions. I like to dig into it. If I find it interesting, I'll dig deeper. If I don't, on to the next. But her ability to, no matter what she's doing, whether it's doing with municipalities, contracts, building code, you just dig in and you go and you go and you go, and her ability to retain that as she learns is like, holy shit. Like, where does that come from? How do you remember that? How do you keep that locked up and then still remember what we're having for dinner sometimes?
I was on the calendar. And I never thought Brandy would become like the tech support whiz that she has become for a lot of her whole circle of people. They're asking her for advice on all this technical stuff, and she's just all over it. Just we got to do this and that.
Like that.
It amazes me because I remember a time I swear that how do I work the TV kind of thing, right? So now it just
I can't do TVs. I don't do hardware. I don't do hardware.
We got to use a computer.
To be in this software,
Software is like totally different.
But the computer's hardware.
No, I can't. Well, but the hardware stuff, the struggle with that. I like the software. Once I'm in there.
That's funny. I also refuse to work the TV.
That's it. Yeah, very rarely. Yeah, usually the remote just comes flying out.
I think at one point, there's like 3 remotes you had to like hit buttons on it or whatever. Yeah. So maybe it was challenging.
I had to simplify down to one remote, but then I said that still work it. But I think you look back on it and they're there to help people around. So doing that, whether it's friends or other parents or whatever. Somebody calls and asks a question, they have something like, it's like, oh shit, information overload, here you go. And this is how you do it. And like invested in watching people do better with how you help them. Mm-hmm. Which has always been something interesting. But that is, I think it's becoming more normal for society, but it's definitely not the norm by any stretch of imagination. It's not people are for themselves to a degree. And you have to be for your family, for your loved ones, for everybody. You have to make sure you're taken care of. But being invested in other people's success is probably a rarity.
You said something to me once. I can reiterate it.
Oh, geez.
He said something like, it just blows my mind. I'm like, what blows your mind? Oh, we were selling our house. I sold our house that we lived in.
Like, we were family day weekend, sister said. We got the call from Brent. Hey, yeah, I got a couple coming in another town. We kind of want something different. Can I show them your house? And it was like Saturday, Sunday. I think the accepted offer was signed Monday or Tuesday. If I recall, it was like a 4-day span. And I was like, well, shit. Where are we going to move to? Where are we going to move to, right?
So then he said, I can't believe your ability to buy and sell like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. Because I was also dealing on renting another shop. I was dealing with some other things. And it was pretty crazy. And he goes, but you have zero capacity to fill out a fucking form. And I'm like, yeah. Like it's almost like the TV remotes, right? Like I can deal with all of this, but like bring it down to the micro little things in between. I'm like, fuck this. Like I have no capacity at that point to deal with that. Like I can do all this. So I think that's a pretty funny example. This is the Real Talk Zone. We're now in segment 3.
Real talk.
Yeah.
We have talked about grief. We've talked about burnout, antidepressants on the show. And although you guys haven't heard the antidepressant episode yet, that hasn't come out.
Well, Nick hasn't heard any of them.
Yeah, Nick. Yeah.
I probably heard it at home.
Have you gone through any of that yourself? Grief, burnout, antidepressants.
I don't recall much grief, I guess. As far as burnout goes, I don't know if I call it burnout, but I've definitely gone through a lot of periods of exhaustion and trying to function through that brain fog that when you're that tired kind of thing, and I get grumpy and very short with the kids when I'm in that zone. So there's been a lot of that. Burnout for me has never really come into it. I've been fortunate that the careers that I've chosen have been very. Like I enjoy it. I still love going to work every day. We go there and we work hard, we train hard, we do it, and I love doing it. So burnout's never been a big factor in my life. So knock on wood, I guess we'll see. Antidepressants, I've never really had much experience with any of that, and there's been times where I'm really tired and really like just feel hard to function. Some days like it's a struggle to get out of bed, and then you start to wonder, well, is this something more than just being tired? Is there something else there? But I've always kind of managed to pull myself out of that. So eventually, and sometimes it took Brandy calling me out on some bullshit and give my head a shake a little bit, and to get back in the game, I guess, and get some sleep, and that usually is the biggest thing that helps. And of course, the only experience I've had with the antidepressants, or learning that there's people that I know, or people that I find out have been taking them for years, and I didn't even know it. Right? That sort of thing is
way more people than you think.
Way more people than I would think. So, and of course, in the last 20 years, I didn't used to know anything about mental health, about anything like that. It was always just keep plugging away, just keep going, strap it on. I quit being a pussy. Just
Still say that to myself.
You know, and that's a hard mindset to break because, you know, in my head, it's still like, are you fucking kidding me? Just get back to work, you know, that sort of thing.
We're not supposed to talk about that.
We're not supposed to talk. We're not supposed to have those kind of thoughts anymore. We're very. I learned a lot more about mental health, and it's been a long road, but I understand it more, I think, but I'm not. I don't think I'm there yet. I can't start to shake old habits. So, and I'm kind of the worst. Like I'm the first one I shut down before I talk to somebody. I don't like asking for help. I don't like doing anything. I'm going to figure it out. I'm just going to push through it. I'm going to get it done. So,
Gotta be steady.
steady. Gotta be stable, steady. I gotta be a strong one.
No antidepressants. Nothing that's ever been around for me, but they have sports where it's like they pushed it hard, and they gave it to you, and that was it. You either won or you lost. There was no in between. If you didn't win by enough, you worked harder. It's just work harder, do more. You can't do enough. You gotta if you're not winning, you're not good enough. You gotta go. And that manifested itself into my adult life. Like a lot of people probably understand where it's like you can always do more. If it's not enough, you can do more. And you talk about burnout. I did it myself. It's not. You can always work more. You can always work longer hours. You can always work harder. You can always make another phone call. You can always there's always a lot more that you can do. Well, I would yeah, absolutely. Still do sometimes if you have a real long month and it's much smaller doses than it used to be. And you realize that you can kind of put some stuff in place, use the tools in the toolbox to get your head back together. But we're not supposed to talk about that. We're supposed to be the man. We're not supposed to have that full fun stuff, right? It's not until the recent future you start hearing about sports psychologists and people breaking stuff down, and you see the change of the person as they do it. And it becomes a really hard habit to break. I find myself talking to the boys sometimes. Just walk it off, get up and keep going, right? And you want to develop, like, where's the line that you got to develop there, right? Because I don't want to grow up with the brain that I had because it's mush half the time. But there's got to be a balance between the two because there's points where you just got to figure it out. You just strap on and figure it out. But there's also times to pull back and ask for help. Where do you find that? Where's the challenge, right? Grief is a really funny one for me. I experienced a little bit of it. I lost my grandfather when I was younger, but he lived in Ontario. I didn't know him that well. I knew him pretty well, but it wasn't a huge thing. Probably the biggest portion of grief I had was when Jenny's dad passed a few years ago, and he was a big part of her life. It was the first time that somebody close and intimately to me had died, and it was really interesting because it was like 5 or 6 people, guys that played hockey with Jenny's dad. It was just like this super intense. My lady who worked with her husband, like a super intense portion of like smacking you in the face. I'm like, change something because this is what's coming, and it just hit you. So it's been an interesting, couple of years. I got to a point where Jenny was not late, but I beat her to a funeral that we were going to. It was like Cornerstone. I was standing outside, and she was like 10 minutes late. And if she wasn't there in a couple minutes, I was leaving because I was going in there. There's no way I didn't want to go in. And it was, thankfully, it's been a while now, so maybe attend if I had been. There's another tragedy somewhere, you lose someone, but I'd had enough. I had enough of it in a very short period of time. And if it's, you're going to be there to support people, but there's some interesting one because it brings out all the shit, brings out all the bad stuff, and it rolls out all the good stuff, I guess.
Grief is interesting. I mean, I've had friends and coworkers and even family, grandparents and stuff in the past 10 or 20 years passed away or whatever. And I don't know, but I don't recall ever feeling much when those events happened. Like I kind of questioned myself a couple of times. Like, should I be feeling more? Like, should this be affecting me more? I understand the situation. I understand that I feel bad for families and stuff, but it was never like, I don't know if I almost feel like numb to it, I guess would be the word. that I would have to go with.
So do you get training in like, as a first responder? Do you get brief training? You get ways to handle
When I started, there was nothing. There was no sort of brief training. There was no nothing like that. It was just something that you deal with in whatever way you could. And nowadays, obviously, there's a bit more. There's psychologists that are available to us, and there's teams that if we go to a significant event or have significant personal loss, we can go and we can access these resources. But I guess back in 20 years ago, it was just you find a way to get yourself through it. Maybe that you push it away, you detach yourself from things, and I think I did that. I've always done that a lot, even before this career that I've chosen. So I don't. Maybe there's an element of not letting them in the first place, so that it doesn't affect you when something like that happens. And and everybody that all these I was never really that close with any of them either. So, but I don't know. Sort of like, should I be feeling more? Should I be numb and detached? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. But I think we've all got to keep moving forward, though. I just don't see any benefit to having everything stop so that you have to process emotions for years or whatever it is. But
I think that with grief, what I found is I learned that I could detach myself from it. I actually, when my dad said that my dog died, my childhood dog, I completely detached myself from it. And then I spent a lot of time detaching myself from it. And I just knew I could. Got really good at just removing my emotional self from things. I think that it's a good thing to be able to detach. I call them compartments. When my dad died, I don't know if you listened to the episode on that. When my dad died, I had 11, almost a full team turnover at Teacup. And it was happening in those 30 days. And I literally had to put my dad no longer being on this planet, who was everything to me, in a little container in the back of the fridge and go and rehire and do this. And then I'd pull it out when I was alone or whatever, just because I knew I needed to process that one because it felt so big. So, but again, for all the time before that, there wasn't anything big enough that I couldn't compartmentalize, right? But I also think too, because you're dealing with these things that a lot of people can't even fathom in their brain on a day-to-day basis, that's your job, right? A lot of the bad stuff. I think that the more you deal with stressful things, then the less stressful things have an impact on you.
Aptitude too. And I don't know what those aptitude tests are like. They test you before you get hired on.
Right. So that you can handle stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the questions they ask or no. No. I'm curious.
nowadays there is a bit more of a psychological profile I think they ask you before they hire you. But back when I got hired, there was mechanical aptitude and there was knowledge and physical testing and all that kind of stuff. There was no psychological.
You want to make sure your screws are in properly.
Yeah, right. But again, those are only as good as the truthful answers that you receive. It's given by a psychologist these days, and it's like a questionnaire of 20 questions. And, I can click off all the right answers. It doesn't matter what's going on in my head, and I can probably pass. I mean, that's.
But I think so when Brent was hired, prior to that, and how he was on a call and was working with the hiring officers at the time. He wasn't working for Lethbridge, but it was before he got hired on. And so I think that a lot of the hiring officers who were working with you also experienced that just working with you in and of itself is
They were assessing you.
Yeah. But they weren't assessing you. They didn't know they were assessing you because it was until after that was hey, did you apply? And you were like, yeah, I did. And then he gets a call a week later. So
you get to know the guy.
So I think there was an aptitude there without you even knowing there was an aptitude.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And I've always felt that I was mentally strong enough to handle all this stuff. But it's not. I didn't go into this with my eyes closed and not knowing what I was gonna get myself into. And I've seen people over the years that have done that very thing. They want the job because of the stereotype that they feel that this is what's going to happen. This is what it's going to be about. And then when they get into shit, then it's just they can't handle it. So that's fine. It's not for everybody.
Mhm.
You know,
Exactly.
off you go. Find what is for you. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
See, I might verge on the side of like the hockey player training where like maybe we're all just being a bunch of pussies these days. And maybe we just need to like, yeah, exactly. And then I just come back to be a little bit normal because I also believe that feelings are just feelings. Like it doesn't define you or what you can do. We were talking one day when I went downstairs and it's like, okay, I'm not feeling like I have energy, but literally my muscles did not or are not unable to lift the weight that I squat typically overnight, right? So just go down, put the fucking weight on and do the thing, do it.
There's
Anyway.
a disconnect between physical and mental toughness. They don't have to come together. Mentally you have to be able to handle the physical pain, but it's not causing you emotional damage.
When you hurt, you're already injured.
That's exactly right. That's exactly it. And that was the difference though. But when I played, it was less about being injured and hurt. It was more about strapping your shit back on and getting back out there. I mean, if it wasn't broken or falling off, you're going. That was the other part. So I think there's a disconnect that, like you said, we swung so far to one side of the pendulum, and that's like, oh, how do you feel? Do you feel like you should play more?
And as soon as someone says, "Do you feel like you have a headache?"
Yeah.
Then they're like, "Oh, actually, maybe I do feel like I have a headache."
We would call those leading questions.
Leading questions.
Yeah.
As a medic,
Right.
it's kind of one of these, like, are you having chest pain? Oh, yeah, I am having chest pain.
I use them every day. Walk right into the car.
There's a time and a place, and if we want truthful answers and we want to know exactly what's going on, we try and let them come up with these ideas all on their own.
So what do you say?
We say, yeah, are you in pain anywhere? Are you hurt? Yeah. Where? And usually we get to everywhere. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Let's narrow this down a little bit. Where's the worst?
Shoot blood out of it. Okay, I like that.
It's a skill. It takes practice too.
Okay, so you both talked about what you do when you're struggling. So what do you do when you're struggling? Like, do you talk about it? Obviously not. You stuff it down. Well, if you have no feelings to start with, you're not stuffing anything down. Tim it out.
Stuff it down. In the big pit of your stomach, yeah.
Call you Shrek. You're like an onion.
Yeah, layers. I always ask my kids, "Who else has layers?" No, I like to work out, and I like to hit the gym, and that definitely helps. That's always been a huge element. I used to, playing sports all growing up. That was always a big thing. Rugby was great for stress, and yeah. So that was actually challenging when I couldn't play rugby anymore because I hurt my knee, and then I was like, okay, now I got to find something else to kind of relieve a lot of this stress or whatever it is I need to do. Still trying to play hockey. That helps too, and I keep hurting myself every time I play hockey these days. So it's tough to keep that going. But just hitting the treadmill, hitting the gym. Very good stress reliever, and you just kind of work out until you're too tired to keep working out, and then you're done.
It's good.
So some days it's a lot quicker than other days, depending on how you're feeling. But
I can go both ways. I think over the years, it would. If I'm not taking care of myself physically, everything seems worse. So that's a big portion of it. But I can also no problem, sit down and watch a hockey game and just decompress. I can sit there, throw it up on the TV, and I don't mind watching it. I like watching it with other people, but I could sit there and watch it by myself. And sometimes I just need to not and let my brain absolutely blank and let it go. So to be able to sit and just blank I think helps me at times, but it's a fine balance. You got to take care of both, right? Because you can burn an hour and a half watching 2 hours pretty quick. So finding the balance there, I think, is the fun part.
Speaking of doing nothing, there's something nice about that time of night where everybody goes to bed. And you just sit there and do nothing, and not have to I have to worry about doing anything. I don't have to do chores or something. Maybe I just take an hour or two and just sit back and chill. And in the mornings too, when I get up like for work, when it's really, really early, like I'm tired, but I can just sit there and it's quiet and sit, dark and quiet in the morning.
Okay. Do you ever feel helpless watching your wives, your ladies go through something you can't fix?
Yeah, I'd say so. There's a lot going on with you, and of course, whenever you're telling me what instance or whatever that's going on, there's problems or whatever. And I'm like, well, here's how you fix it. You're right. I want to fix it. It's like, tell them to fuck off. Real straightforward solutions to these problems. And I know it's probably not helpful. She's probably not going to take my advice and do things that way. My first response is to try and help her fix it. Like, I'm not just going to sit there and, oh, that's horrible. I'm sorry that's happening to you. That's not exactly who I am.
Worked on that. That was well done.
That's
That was well done.
That's tough for me to do. I'm always trying to find solutions, and yeah.
I think it's a male thing.
Yeah, and I know I can't. Maybe I can't do anything about it. I feel kind of helpless because I can't fix it, or she won't let me fix it, or whatever it is. So absolutely.
If I could let you fix it, would you? What would you do?
Oh, I don't know. Probably the wrong thing to fix it.
Oh, well, that's it.
Just tell them to fuck off.
Fuck off.
Hey, fuck off.
Maybe I wouldn't fix it, but at least they'd know how you.
I don't know if it's genetics or how the demographic, but they'd probably fix it, right? That's always whether it be in the trades or first responder stuff. Like when there's a problem, you go fix it. That's what you do.
You fix it or you break it more trouble.
Right? Yeah. Well, I think I broke a few more trying to fix it than the others because it's the same thing. Because Jenny's always got the same thing. There's always a bunch going on and some asshole's doing something. And it's real simple for me to pick up the phone and be like, hey, you're a dickhead. Go away. I don't know if, like you said, that's going to fix anything, but it made me feel better. I feel better about that. But sometimes it's like you said, learn to just sit back and listen.
I wonder if it would work. There are some times with some people where I wonder if a good old fuck you would actually fix it. Instead of to like pussyfoot around stuff all the time.
Okay. What's something about your wife that surprised you once she got into business or podcasting?
I was surprised at how good your voice is on the recording or whatever. Right? And I learned that back when you were doing videos and stuff like that too, like the training videos. Like, oh, take that, you do that. You're like the way that you talk and your cadence and everything. No, you had a good radio voice, I guess.
What's one thing we do that makes you want to run away and hide, but also love her more?
That's it. Brandy's way of starting the conversation and then just kind of trailing off and not coming back to the conversation. Sometimes I'm just waiting on the edge of my seat. I'm like, circle back. Like, okay, well, okay, we'll get back there. I'm like, what were you saying? What?
Land that plane.
That happens. It's happened more than a few times. I giggle inside. It's kind of fun. Sometimes I'm like, I really want to know what your thought was there because I'm interested.
I would have to run back and say her ability to take on absolutely fucking everything. And it's like, holy, it's enough. And like, you kind of want to pull back, but then you want to get in there. It makes you want to do, so it kind of sucks you back in. It's like anything that just pulls you.
Well, speaking of that, back to the time when you quit your job. You quit your job to start the business. That was hard for me. I was like, whoa. Because I'm more of you get a job, it's stable, you don't quit your job unless you have another job lined up, that sort of thing. I'll work a job for 30 years and take my pension. That's where my mindset. So to quit your job, to start your own business, that is incredibly scary to me. And I can't believe that she's got the Jones to do that. So, yeah.
It's yin and yang. I'd say the same thing. There's stability in what there's this instability and stability in what I do, but same thing. I know that I got a place to go come Monday or Tuesday morning, and I know that I got work to do and things to dig into. And it's what I make of it. So because I don't know if you'd want to have you two in the same relationship. one going one way, one going the other, and all of a sudden, that was the burnout.
Finish this. Living with her is like, say the full sentence. Blank.
Living with her is like,
Living with Brandy is like,
Living with a squirrel. Halfway through one task, and then she stops and drops everything and off to the next thing. And, hey, are you done with this? Can I put this away? Yeah, sure. Ah!
Stop that.
Oh, I can't imagine if you drank energy drinks.
Oh, boy. Living with Jenny is like a tornado. Because it's like, there's always something going on, and there's usually about 8 different things going on at one time. So you just gotta hang on, figure it out, help where you can.
do you know Brent's? Do you know your human design profile?
I did. I used to could.
I'm not even sure which thing we're talking about. There's been a few different versions of personality
He's like,
tests over the years. I'm not sure which
Yeah.
one.
He's
Or
an,
is this the,
he's an
is this the
Enneagram.
NFPQ or
No, you're an ISTJ.
STJ?
I don't know mine.
Say them again, because he's not.
Manifestor,
He's
generator,
not neither of those.
projector.
I think I've heard these words.
And just projector.
Yeah,
That's
or
it.
Manigen.
Projector.
Projector.
I see that.
Yeah, he's a projector because it's like rare too, isn't it?
Yeah, more rare. Yeah. Nick is a manifester.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Brent's a projector.
That's good. I don't know. I don't know what that
It's good.
means.
It's good. It's good. Yeah, it's good. It's good. All right. You're also a horse.
The projector horse. If I could give one piece of advice to anybody in any other guys in my position with my worldly experience and wisdom. Sorry, I can't give a straight face. One piece of advice I could give is, guys, you're a team. It's about teamwork, and you're on the same team, so let's not be fighting with each other unless we gotta work together, make things work. Hashtag Team Tyndall.
That is good advice, though.
That is. I can give one piece of advice to other guys in our position. It would be to enjoy it. Because it's probably not going to last long. So this is the time of your life where you come and the kids are growing and doing a bunch of fun stuff. As much as the days seem long, the years are short, and I know everybody's heard that. But I looked over at kids the other day. Yeah. Take the time, enjoy it, do the things. Stress is temporary. It's easy. It's easier than you think about it.
It's good advice. What do you wish guys talked about more when it comes to being partners to strong, emotional, high-achieving women?
I don't know, guys are pretty simple. We're not really talking about you guys and your high performances when we're out drinking, watching the game and stuff.
Pretty quiet. I don't know if that's an answerable question, simply for the fact that I don't think there's that many out there. Really.
Oh,
I truly don't. It's not I don't think that's the normal. I think typically drivers like yourselves it's more of a male dominated setup. I think you guys probably talked about it. The podcast already had about it. So I think that's a hard conversation to start.
I think Brandy's talked about this too. Like when she's been in some social situations where in a room with there's a bunch of other women there, and she has a hard time relating to all these stay-at-home moms and or somebody that's got like a part-time job and stuff like that. It's really tough to relate to that because like what do you talk about? You're talking about all this high-level business entrepreneurship type stuff and
That's true. It is hard to do that.
and I think the direction's moving more in that direction than it has been. Like obviously since the 50s when that's what we did. It was the housewife that was there. So it was very rare to see a businesswoman out there. But I mean, of course, but you're still you're few and far between. I think out there.
What do you want? What's one thing you really want people listening, especially other men, to take away from this episode?
I think they need to take away how wise and learned we are. No, enjoy it. Support your wife whenever she wants to do. Like, just be there for your wife. Be there for your kids. Like, nothing irritates me more than a wife talking about her husband and that doesn't do anything, just kind of comes home and like puts his feet up and there's never helps with the kids, never helps with anything in the house. And drives me fucking bananas. Just be there, be helpful. If you've got skills, put them to use. I don't know. I don't know what else to. Everybody can watch this. I can teach you. I can. Yeah, YouTube videos. I should.
YouTube videos?
Yes, I gotta wash dishes.
I've told him that. I've told him he should have a channel.
Then you have this glorious setup.
He's so particular.
Well, there's certain things that don't go in the dishwasher.
You should see him. Everything.
Well, for one thing, wood-handled knives. I mean,
Yeah. You have to avoid the dishwasher.
some of it. There's lots of things. I can go on.
I think Brent's right. It's got to be a team effort. If you try to do it by yourself, that's how you're going to end up. And it takes, everybody when we were back when kids were doing less and parents were doing less, and everybody tell you how it took a village. Now you're doing more with more, and it still takes a village. It's not for one person; it's for everybody to get after it.
It's funny because I'm all about teamwork. I'm all about being part of a team. But in the same sense, it's also really, really hard for me to ask for help. So,
what do you mean?
Yeah, it's like I'd rather lead by example, and you can just follow, and we'll do this.
Yeah,
like I'm not going to be like, hey, can you help me with this? It's just I'm going to just start doing it and struggle with it, and then you need some help? Yeah, okay, sure, thank you.
I was just like hell by myself. Yeah, help anybody. I'll struggle like hell by myself. No problem. That's easy.
In the same sense that if anybody asks for help, I'm more than willing to. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to help you. But expecting me to just know what needs help with sometimes, and me just offer it up, and that's hard.
Anything else you want to add? Life's a garden, dig it.
Just keep on keeping on.
Kuna Matata.
Sometimes bulls you don't have to. I think it's fun. Just if you feel like doing something, go and do it. That's what this is. Right? They decided to do a podcast, so off they go. If you like doing it, do it. You never know what it's going to turn out to be.
And
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We suck, so you don't have to.
In fact, you don't have to. Yeah.
Is that
okay?
I think
that's fair. I think that's a fair statement. Yeah. Click the link below.
You give you our address so you can send money. How does the YouTube work?
we'll do it in the pool next time.
Yeah, next time in the pool.
On the podcast where ultimately
We suck, and so do you, but that's okay. That's what we say.
Ultimately, we suck, so you don't have to. Otherwise,
No. That's funny.
bye.
Bye.
Next week on Unsuccessful, we're stepping into the world of spiritual healing, energy work, and the transformative power of breaking wide open. We're joined by Cindy Tradewell, an energy practitioner and healer who shares her incredible journey through Reiki, trauma healing, grounding, spirit guides, and time traveling. Yes, really. All in the name of redefining success and reconnecting with self. If you've ever felt stuck, burnt out, or curious about how energy and intention can play a role in your healing, you do not want to miss this one. Until then, keep grounded, breathing, and as always, this is Unsuccessful, the podcast where life might feel like a total dumpster fire, but hey, at least it's your dumpster fire. See you next time.